Well, good evening. We'll take you live to Buckingham Palace in a moment. That's because the King and Queen and people across the country have been paying their respects 80 years since victory in Europe was declared. After a Thanksgiving service at Westminster Abbey, a 2-minute silence was held at 12 noon to remember the sacrifice of those who fought in World War II. The King and Prince William laid wreaths of poppies to commemorate the nearly 400,000 soldiers who were killed. And at this very moment, 80 years ago, give or take a few minutes, the King's grandfather, King George VI, addressed the nation on a live radio broadcast. Let's just remind you what he said.
At this hour, when the dreadful shadow of war has passed far from our hearths and homes in these islands, we may at last make one pause for thanksgiving and then turn our thoughts to the tasks all over the world which peace in Europe.
Well, let's go straight to our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, who joins me from Buckingham Palace. And Rhiannon, there are celebrations. I mean, there have been celebrations over the last few days, but a special concert now.
Yeah, it's so hard to imagine, isn't it? It's so quiet here at the moment, but 80 years ago, behind me, there would have been a sea of people singing, dancing, some of them hanging from those lampposts as they celebrated the end of war in Europe. Tonight, a short distance away at Horse Guards Parade, with the royal family at the centre of it, a special concert is taking place tonight, albeit with a very different soundtrack, I think, to try and hook in a younger audience to those stories from the Second World War. I think for the King over the last 4 days, he's really seen it as his duty to lead these tributes and commemorations, trying to bring across the kind of the mixed emotions that people would have felt that day. Yes, the weight of war had been lifted from them, but for many, life had changed beyond recognition. They had to pay the ultimate sacrifice. They had lost loved ones. Of course, for him, it won't have been lost on him this week, the significant part that his grandfather played, King George VI. He really rose to the challenge 80 years ago. He became a figure of resilience, a man who people looked up to, who respected. And I think although these are very different times now, of course, with everything that's going on in the world, the King now, King Charles, has also faced having to really step up when it comes to dabbling in some very difficult diplomatic matters. Of course, with the conflicts going on in the world and the geopolitical turbulence, it would be easy to look past what's happening here in terms of the history of it and think, well, that was something that just happened in the past. But I think what's been really important, especially over the last 4 days, is that sense of reinforcing that we really need to listen to the men and women who are still with us today, who were there 80 years ago. We need to remember what they went through. We need to remember the lessons that they learned. And certainly speaking to one veteran, she talked to me about how wars today, conflict today, seems so unnecessary, that it's driven by greed. But what's so important now is that we reflect back on the hell that people went through, those who decided to serve their country, but not just those who decided to wear the uniform, but those back here on the home front. It was ultimately a time when everybody pulled together, everybody did their bit for king and country, if you like, and it's a very different time today. I have to say, what's been really important is making sure that young people have also been involved in these commemorations. And certainly we've seen that from members of the royal family. We've seen the younger royals actively involved on Monday, especially the likes of Prince George, and a particularly moving photograph of him holding hands with a veteran at a tea party, learning for the future, making sure that we don't forget. And now I believe we can hear from King Charles.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 80 years since my grandfather, King George VI, announced to the nation and the Commonwealth that the dreadful shadow of war has passed from our hearths and our homes. The liberation of Europe was secured. His words echo down through history as all this week, and especially today, we unite to celebrate and remember with an unwavering and heartfelt gratitude the service and sacrifice of the wartime generation who made that hard-fought victory possible. While our greatest debt is owed to all those who paid the ultimate price, we should never forget how the war changed the lives of virtually everyone. Now, as then, we are united in giving utmost thanks to all those who served in the armed forces, the uniformed services, the home front, indeed all the people of this country, the Commonwealth and beyond, whose firm resolve and fortitude helped destroy Nazism and carry our allied nations through to VE Day. That debt can never truly be repaid, but we can and we will remember them. Over the course of the last year, there have been 80th anniversaries across Europe, from the hills of Monte Cassino to the lower Rhine at Arnhem. Last June, my wife and I were profoundly moved to join veterans of D-Day at the new National Memorial overlooking Gold Beach as they returned to honor their comrades who never came home. In January, as the world marked the liberation of Auschwitz, I met survivors whose stories of unspeakable horror were the most vivid reminder of why victory in Europe truly was the triumph of good over evil. All these moments and more combine to lead us to this day when we recall both those darkest days and the great jubilation when the threat of death and destruction was finally lifted from our shores. The celebration that evening was marked by my own late mother, who, just 19 years old, described in her diary how she mingled anonymously in the crowds across central London and, in her own words, walked for miles among them. The rejoicing continued into the next day when she wrote, "Out in the crowd again, Embankment, Piccadilly, rained so fewer people, congered into house, sang till 2 a.m., bed at 3 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, I do hope your celebrations tonight are almost as joyful, although I rather doubt I shall have the energy to sing until 2 a.m., let alone, for that matter, to lead you all in a giant conga from here back to Buckingham Palace. The Allied victory being celebrated then, as now, was a result of unity between nations, races, religions, and ideologies, fighting back against an existential threat to humanity. Their collective endeavor remains a powerful reminder of what can be achieved when countries stand together in the face of tyranny. But even as we rejoice again today, we must also remember those who are still fighting, still living with conflict and starvation on the other side of the world. For them, peace would not come until months later with VJ Day, Victory in the Pacific, which my father witnessed at first hand from the deck of his destroyer, HMS Whelp. So, in remembering the past, we must also look to the future. As the number of those who lived through the Second World War so sadly dwindles, the more it becomes our duty to carry their stories forward, to ensure their experiences are never to be forgotten. We must listen, learn, and share, just as communities across the nation have been doing this week at local street parties, religious services, and countless small acts of remembrance and celebration. And as we reach the conclusion of the 80th anniversary commemorations, we should remind ourselves of the words of our great wartime leader, Sir Winston Churchill, who said, "Meeting jaw to jaw is better than war." In so doing, we should also rededicate ourselves not only to the cause of freedom, but to renewing global commitments to restoring a just peace where there is war, to diplomacy, and to the prevention of conflict. For, as my grandfather put it, we shall have failed, and the blood of our dearest will have flowed in vain if the victory which they died to win does not lead to a lasting peace founded on justice and established in goodwill. Just as those exceptional men and women fulfilled their duty to each other, to humankind, and to God, bound by an unshakable commitment to nation and service, in turn, it falls to us to protect and continue their precious legacy, so that one day hence, generations yet unborn may say of us, they too bequeathed a better world.
And that was King Charles reflecting and honouring the past and talking about the importance of remembering the sacrifices of the past in today's tumultuous world. Well, let's bring in our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, who joins us again now. Rhiannon, I mean, it really was honouring those who had made all of those sacrifices, but ensuring that people don't forget the sacrifices they made, especially when we think about turmoil and conflict right across the globe today.
I think it was hugely important for the King to make that speech relevant to today and, in a way, make sure that we take that time to pause and really think about the lessons that we can learn from that wartime generation who are sadly not going to be with us for much longer, many of them in their 90s and in their early hundreds. So I think for him, it was particularly poignant. He literally stepped onto that stage at 9 o'clock, which was the moment 80 years ago that his grandfather, King George VI, delivered a speech to the nation from here, from Buckingham Palace. So he was echoing the words of his grandfather, also echoing the words of Winston Churchill. But I think what he was doing was making it very current, as he said, we must rededicate ourselves not only to the cause of freedom, but to renewing global commitments to restoring a just peace where there is war, to diplomacy and the prevention of conflict. He says, for as my grandfather put it, we shall have failed and the blood of our dearest will have flowed in vain if the victory which they have died to win does not lead to a lasting peace founded on justice and established in goodwill. Now, what particularly stood out to me, that the last few months, the King in particular has really been at the forefront of some very difficult diplomatic issues, diplomatic matters. He's, of course, been used in a way to ingratiate ourselves with the likes of Donald Trump. He's met up with President Zelensky. What he has stressed today is he's talked of unity and collective endeavour, saying that the Allied victory being celebrated then as now was a result of unity between nations, races, religions, ideologies, fighting back against an existential threat to humanity. We know for the King that interfaith work, community dialogue has always been really important to him, both as heir to the throne and now as monarch. Look, it is not lost on him the importance of his grandfather during the Second World War, a man who was this symbol of resilience. And I think now, albeit in very different times, King Charles is also trying to make sure that he can lead this country, especially at this moment of commemoration, and make sure those extraordinary acts of bravery from very ordinary people are not forgotten as we move on.
Yeah, indeed. Rhiannon, thank you so much.
And good evening from Rome on the day a new pope was elected to lead 1.4 billion Catholics around the world. In the earlier this evening, after the third vote by cardinals, cheers erupted as white smoke billowed from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. Then came the announcement that, for the first time in the Church's history, the new pontiff was American. Robert Prevost was born in Chicago but has joint Peruvian citizenship. He has taken the name Pope Leo XIV. So this was the moment when the white smoke appeared. The church bells of St. Peter's Square were also rung when the result came. And it was around 70 minutes later when the identity of the new pope was revealed to the world. Pope Leo XIV emerged onto the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, waving to the thousands in St. Peter's Square as they cheered and chanted his name. Speaking in Italian, the pontiff said they must be a church that builds bridges.
God loves us. God loves all of you. And sin will not prevail. We are all in the hands of God. And at the same time, without fear, let us be united, hand in hand, with God and amongst ourselves. Let's move forward, because we are the disciples of Christ. Together, we must try to find out how to be a missionary church, a church that builds bridges, establishes dialogues, that's always open to receive on this piazza with open arms, to be able to receive everybody that needs our charity, our presence, dialogue and love.
Well, no one expected an American pontiff, but there is a reason Pope Leo XIV was chosen by 2/3 of the cardinals during the conclave. He was head of the body which vets nominations for bishops from around the world and served as the Archbishop of Chiclayo in Peru. He also led the Augustinian religious order, a 13th century order founded by St. Augustine. Some described him as a compromise candidate, a close ally of the late Pope Francis, who had progressive views on the environment and migration.
What greater honor could there be? And we were a little bit surprised, very happy. It was just a great, absolutely great honor. They have already spoken to us, and we'll see what happens. But again, to have the Pope from the United States of America, that's a great honor. That's a great honor.
We'll speak to David Bleven about the new Pope's life in the US in a moment, but first to Siobhan Robbins in St. Peter's Square. And Siobhan, well, it's been quite a day.
Amazing, amazing scenes down here a few hours ago. The whole crowd roared when they saw the white smoke, and the excitement only built from there. But rather than me tell you, let's talk to three guests we've got here. Three priests who are based in America, Eduardo, Elizabeth and George. You had the best seats in the house right at the front. What was the atmosphere like?
It was incredible and unexpected, very anxious, but if you don't squeeze me, for me was not real. But it's real.
It is real. You know, a lot of names were thrown around. This really wasn't one people were speaking about. Why do you think an American Pope was chosen?
Me personally feel that it was probably chosen by the Holy Spirit, an American, because, you know, right now at the present time, I believe that the United States needs, we need hope. And honestly, I feel that this new Pope will bring that hope to the United States.
What do you think? And what do you mean by that? What role do you think he's going to play?
Right now, there's a lot of changes in the United States. We do have a new leader that is leading the American people. But everything is done in a way that me personally feel that it needs to slow down a little bit, and also, you know, for people to be treated as people. So with the new Pope, I pray they work in conjunction with the new leader of the United States in order for them to be more merciful and also to go ahead and bring that hope that now I feel that the United States needs.
So a guiding hand, a balancing hand. Finally, you saw him come out to give his first speech to address the people, to pray with the people as Pope. What was your initial reaction to what you heard? What are we going to get from him, do you think, as a Pope?
My belief is we're going to get unity across all communities. He's going to unite all communities, not just Catholic and Christians, but worldwide communities. He's going to give hope when there is none in the world. He's going to give us an opportunity to see the hand of God being implemented in his divine plan. I don't really go by labels, American, Italian, Philippine. It doesn't matter. The Holy Spirit, through the will of God, picked the individual who God knows can do the job to continue the whole the divine plan that God has for us. I was happy because I'm an American, yes, American, but I was much more happier and taken aback that the Holy See is filled again, and now God's divine plan can move forward. So he is, in one word, the hope that the world needs.
Thank you so much. Well, you heard it here, initial reaction from three priests based in America. They hope that this new Pope brings hope to their community.
Siobhan, thanks very much indeed. Let's go to David Bleven then in the United States. And, well, a piece of history, David. What are Americans making of this?
Well, here in the United States, like everywhere else, Robert Prevost was considered the dark horse candidate, appointed a cardinal bishop just 2 months ago, and quietly coming to prominence, I think, in the days leading up to this conclave. He's very well known in America, of course, having been born in Chicago, the largest archdiocese for the church in North America. But many people thought the cardinals would appoint a European successor to Pope Francis, an Argentinian. Instead, they have again looked to the Americas, this time appointing the first pope from the United States. Now, he did hold two prominent positions. He was head of the dicastery of bishops, so overseeing the appointment of bishops, and he was also the Pontificate Commission for Latin America, home to 40% of the world's Roman Catholics, and a place, of course, where he missioned for a long time in Peru. And those things, I suppose, helped bring him to prominence in recent years. His friends say he's centrist when it comes to the key issues. He's an expert on canon law, and that may have appealed to the traditionalists. But he's progressive, like his predecessor, in terms of championing the poor. I think it's fair to say also that he's not without controversy. He has been accused, along with many others, by victims of clerical abuse of mishandling that issue. But the conclave has spoken, and the conclave has made history. This is extraordinary. Of the previous 266 popes, only 20 have served since America's declaration of independence. So this country, which leads the world in so many ways, had never led the church until now. It's been a rapid ascent from the suburbs of South Chicago to the corridors of power in the Vatican. His parents, Louis and Mildred, could never have imagined that one of their three sons would one day be Supreme Pontiff.
No, David, thank you very much. So what does this mean for the future of the Catholic Church? Father Francesco Giordano is a professor of theology at the Catholic University of America in Rome and is an acquaintance, I think we can say that, of the, you know him, of the new Pope. Well, look, I saw you jumping around earlier when it was revealed that it was him. And you were on your phone. I mean, you were delighted. Why so delighted?
Well, because we do have an acquaintance of the Pope, of the new Pope here in Rome. We do see him around, walking the streets, and we've seen him at dinners and at the seminary, and so it's just a casual. It's not a deep acquaintance, but we do know who he is. Yeah. So it was someone that I knew.
Yeah. So what sort of man is he?
What sort of man is he? Well, I mean, I think it's just like what he appears to be. Very composed and reflective, thoughtful. Yes, he works hard. I think he works hard. He's known as a hard worker, silent, not someone who likes the spotlight, not someone who's out looking for the spotlight. Very discreet, I think.
So maybe a reluctant Pope?
Actually, it doesn't seem like a reluctant Pope. In the end, it seems like he just fit right into the position. It seems. I wouldn't say he was reluctant. I think he's not reluctant wouldn't be the word. I would say is just not someone who looks for the spotlight. How would you say that? I don't know.
No, that's absolutely understandable. Because it is a very difficult job, and there are a lot of challenges ahead. Is he up to those challenges, do you think?
I think he is. Yeah, I think he is, because I think he's been a bishop for a long time. He was the superior of his order, the Augustinian order. He was a bishop of a diocese, so he knows he has the contact with diocesan contact with priests, with what happens in normal diocesan life. He was the prefect of a congregation here in the Vatican, so he's aware of what's going on in the global church. He knows bishops everywhere. He knows what's going on. So I think he's up to I think he knows how to do what he has to do. He's been close to the previous Pope, to Pope Francis.
Yeah. So. Well, he was described today as a more organised Pope Francis. Do you think that's right?
A more organised Pope Francis. That's an interesting description. I assume that's right. He's more organised, meaning that Pope Francis appeared less organised. Or
well, that was the supposition. Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to comment that.
No, we don't. No. But listen, when the moment came and the smoke came,
yes,
it was just a sensational atmosphere, wasn't it? What a real joy.
Yes. Well, it always is. When there's the Habemus Patem, everyone's joyful because you have a father again. You're not, to the church, as the Pope, the Father, the Papa, and so we're happy to have
people running through the streets to get to St. Peter's Square to see who the Pope was. Well, you see, I mean, it's normal for you. This was my first. I just thought it was, just a wonderful.
Oh, yes. For me, it's. I've been through one of these events before, so yes.
Well, listen.
But thank you.
We'll go and celebrate.
Thank you.
Father, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So that's it from Rome for now, overlooking Vatican City on an historic day for the Catholic Church. Now back to Yalda in London.
Thank you so much, Mark. Now to a developing story that we've been covering all week. India and Pakistan have again exchanged tit-for-tat strikes across their borders today amid fears of a much larger escalation. Now, India struck 9 sites on Tuesday night, targeting what they say was terrorist infrastructure. Strikes continued today on both sides. The Pakistani military says Rawalpindi Cricket Stadium, south of the capital Islamabad, was hit, along with some locations in the Sindh province, with Indian drones intercepted over Lahore. In Indian-controlled Kashmir, loud explosions were heard in the city of Jammu. We'll hear from the man who led Pakistan's military until 6 months ago and the Indian ambassador to the UK in a moment. But first, our India reporter, Neville Lazarus, has the very latest.
Two neighbours trading blame, accusations and military strikes. Reports that Pakistan shot down Indian drones and that Pakistan sent missiles across the border to India could not be verified. This gaping hole in the home of Faizan Ali in Karachi, the collateral damage of heightened tensions.
Something hit my place. Some say it was drone and some say something else. It hit my house and broke my rooftop. Everything became dark below.
In cities across Pakistan, loud bangs were heard, and explosions at an airfield in Lahore created panic and uncertainty.
I heard noises of the bombs for about 30 to 45 minutes. Loud bomb noises have been occurring, not just a little, quite a lot of firing's been taking place here. First this morning there were 2 drones, and after that they dropped 3 more. We've seen them coming in all morning and we heard the impacts from the loud noises.
More damage from a drone at the cricket stadium in fortified Rawalpindi. Thousands of spectators had been due to attend a match here. As night fell, Pakistan targeted towns in the Jammu region in Indian Kashmir. Blackouts are now in place in some areas of Kashmir, Punjab and Rajasthan.
Any further action by Pakistan, some of which we are seeing today, is nothing but escalation by Pakistan now, once again, and will be responded to and is being responded to appropriately.
The violence is spiraling on both sides of the border, with no signs that either country is ready to back down. Neville Lazarus, Sky News, Delhi.
Well, let's go straight to our Asia correspondent, Cordelia Lynch, who joins me now from the city of Faisalabad in Pakistan. Cordelia, really good to see you. I mean, it really does still feel incredibly tense on both sides.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And certainly this evening, this feels like a country and certainly a province that is on high alert. In the last few hours, there have been a flurry of mixed reports and counterclaims from the Pakistanis and the Indians. There are initially reports of potential strikes claim the Indian media. On Kashmir and Jammu, we have seen a very forceful denial of those claims from the Pakistani government tonight. And many people that we've been speaking to here have been talking about Lahore today. That is Pakistan's second largest city, where 25 drones claim the Pakistani government were brought down. They say they were monitoring drones. They didn't carry explosives, but certainly that is a city that's densely populated, home to about 14 million people, and also home to a lot of military installation sites. So it's a very sensitive, very symbolic, very important border area that has made many inside it feel vulnerable. I think there is a sense of calm now that is set in to some extent since the morning, certainly from those I've been speaking to on the ground. But I think no one knows what is coming next, and trying to unpick exactly what has occurred is challenging, but certainly a very forceful response from Pakistan today, just in the last couple of hours, who have said, if there is a strike, the world will know. We will not deny action we have taken. And so take with great caution any claims you are hearing from the Indian side.
Cordelia, thank you so much for that update from Pakistan. Well, joining me now is India's High Commissioner to the UK, Vikram Doraiswamy. Thank you so much, High Commissioner, for joining us here on the programme. Our correspondent Cordelia Lynch was just reporting there from Pakistan, and she also talked about the warning that Pakistan has issued, saying the world will find out when they do strike back. How concerned are you that this thing is just going to start to escalate?
Let me point out that the original escalation is Pakistan's sponsored terror group's attack on civilians in Pahalgam on 22nd April. You know, our response thereafter was precise, targeted, reasonable, and moderate. It was focused principally and solely on terrorist infrastructure. We did not strike the Pakistani military establishment. We did not strike national infrastructure. And we made it abundantly clear, including in the briefing that was given yesterday morning by our permanent secretary, our foreign secretary, and by military officers, that the object of this exercise was clearly to avoid military escalation. The fact was actually acknowledged in a left-handed way, of course, by the Pakistani side in terms of their own statements, official statements, which said that the airspace hadn't been violated and that, no military establishments were attacked.
And yet they did say that civilians were killed in this attack.
You see the images that they put out themselves. These were at places well known and identified even in Western media for many, many years as central points in the terrorism infrastructure of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Hizbul Mujahideen, well-known parts of that infrastructure and those establishments.
Can you confirm that the leader and founder of Jaish-e-Mohammed's family members were killed in this strike?
Well, they put it out on their own social media. This is not us confirming. It is on well-known handles, social media handles of the group.
High Commissioner, I want to ask you about Chinese-made Pakistani fighter jet planes that say they shot down at least 2 Indian military aircraft on Wednesday. What is your reaction and response to that?
Well, you had the defense minister on your show a couple of days ago. He said that the evidence for that was on social media. By that yardstick, today's media all over in India over the last 3 hours has reported the shoot down of 2 Chinese-made fighter jets and an F-16 and an airborne early warning platform.
Well, High Commissioner,
I don't believe, the point that I was trying to make, if I may just complete that, look, if it satisfies Pakistan's ego to say that they've done something, they could have used that as an off-ramp to move on. But clearly they chose not to, and they've continued to escalate the matter.
This is a report I'm reading from Reuters based on 2 US officials telling Reuters this. They're saying it's the first time that Western officials have confirmed that there was high confidence that Pakistan had used the Chinese-made J-10 aircraft to launch air-to-air missiles against Indian fighter jets, bringing down at least 2.
This is something that, let's ask Reuters. But my larger sense is that there is no evidence of that. We haven't actually confirmed any such thing. The better point is to ask, actually, if all of this is true and if Pakistan has essentially succeeded in making its point as it wanted to, why are they not stopping? The question you have to ask yourself, however, is the other one, which is that if Pakistan says it's retaliating, as my colleague, the Pakistan High Commissioner, said here yesterday, what are they retaliating about? They're retaliating against attacks on terrorism infrastructure. So what does that tell you of their relationship with the terror groups?
Well, they're saying that they're distancing themselves completely from Pahalgam, and they're saying they had nothing to do with it. They've said that they've asked for an investigation, and India has refused an international investigation that they were happy to cooperate in.
Well, this is a story we've heard multiple times before. In 2016, after the Pathankot attack, which you referred to, we offered them an unprecedented amount of access to an Indian Air Force base, which had been attacked at Pathankot. DNA samples, telephone records, the whole works. It was supposed to be a joint investigation. We never got invited for the second part of it. And frankly, each time, if you go all the way back to 2008 to the Mumbai terror attacks, where a substantial amount of information and material evidence was provided to the world and to Pakistan, who made the same generous offer of cooperation, all they've used it for is to hide their tracks and to take away fundamentally what are assets of their deep state.
High Commissioner, I'm just going to keep you there because I just want to give our viewers and audience some context and bring that in. And I just want to pause for a moment, just remind our viewers how the two countries stack up against each other militarily. Now, India has over 1.2 million active personnel in its army. Pakistan has less than half of that, 560,000. In the Navy, India has 75,000 active personnel and Pakistan has 30,000. In the Air Force, India has almost 150,000 personnel, while Pakistan, again, has less than half with 70,000. But let's look at the Chinese factor now into the equation. China is by far Pakistan's largest weapons supplier, providing 81% of imports from 2020 to 2024. In contrast, Russia is your country's largest supplier, India's, and provided 36% of its weapon imports in the same period. How worried is India about the China factor?
I don't see why we should be. The Chinese have a relationship with us also. Their own statements of yesterday from their Foreign Office and their Foreign Office spokespersons have been, by the broad metrics of the reactions elsewhere, been largely in the center. I don't see why that should be a factor.
It doesn't worry you then that they supply such a high level of military hardware to Pakistan, 80% or so? And that's the accusation in terms of what shot down these 2 Indian military aircraft?
Well, according to the same sets of unknown and unnamed people, we've supposedly shot down 2 Chinese fighters earlier today. I don't know if these are true. Nobody knows if this is true, unless actual evidence is put out of it, although the press is now suggesting in India that they even have they've even had pilots who've ejected and been captured. Now, the reality is simply this. China requires a relationship with all of its neighbors, that includes us. Its defense relationship with Pakistan is long-standing. It is for Pakistan to decide whether it chooses to use its military hardware for its self-defense or to actually attack other countries. This has been the problem even with material supplied by the United Kingdom or by the US in the past. Essentially, it's been taken on the guise of fighting terror, for instance, like the F-16 aircraft bought in the mid-2000s. And as we all know, the F-16 has principally been used against us, including in 2019.
That's correct. Pakistan says that it will strike at a time and place of its choosing, and India will be made aware of that. Is India worried and preparing for this and potential scenarios?
We have made it abundantly clear in our official statement, again, as I said, both yesterday and today. We're not looking for an escalation. But if Pakistan responds, as we have done, we will respond proportionately and in exactly the same line.
Which would be what? Targeting these terror bases or
Well,
beyond?
look, we have said if the military is attacked, we had not attacked their military. As they've now started trying to attack our bases, we've hit back at their air defense systems and at their units too. But I do want to remind everybody that for the last 15 days, they've also opened up artillery fire along the line of control, also in Jammu and Kashmir. So that has had a civilian toll. So for everybody who's worrying about that, this has been going on for the last 2 weeks.
I just want to come back to this point on the Indian military aircraft. I know India is not confirming this situation. There are now Western officials coming out. The French have said that they have an understanding that the aircraft, the Rafale that India has been hit. Are you concerned that you're going to continue to have this kind of loss?
I don't think so. What is the purpose? First of all, we don't know if this has happened. But as a famous British admiral once said, the purpose of military infrastructure and hardware is for it to be used, right? If it serves its purpose, and it all serves its purpose brilliantly, I think there is little doubt that we have hit with great precision as many as 9 terror infrastructure camps. We have shown we have the capacity to hit with surgical precision at individual buildings within the terror camps. What we are then signaling is we have the capacity, if Pakistan escalates it, we have the capacity to really punish them harder.
High Commissioner, I just have a minute left, but I've spoken to a retired general who in Pakistan who referenced India funding and backing the Baluch Liberation Army. They've said that they have done that for years, and when I asked him about Masood Azhar, he said, well, their family members were targeted. Should we be doing the same to, the high-level militants from the BLA, the Baluch Liberation Army, that are seen and operate within Delhi?
Well, look, let me show you this photograph of yesterday, I believe it is, to your viewers. This person here is a sanctioned terrorist under the American sanctions regime. His name is Hafiz Abdur Rauf. He's a brother of the founder of the terrorist groups that you're mentioning. Look who's behind him, Pakistani military. Look at the coffins there. They have the Pakistani national flag. If you're going to be giving terrorists state funerals, what does that make of your system? And everybody knows that for the last 30 years, Pakistan has used this as a means of subcritical warfare against India. If the international community really wants to be able to look at this and worry about it, the simple solution is to tell Pakistan it has an opportunity for an off-ramp. These are things that the world should have compelled Pakistan to do 30 years ago, and to compel them to implement their promises about taking down this infrastructure. It has not done so.
We can't verify these images ourselves, and this is part of one of the problems, High Commissioner, that both sides, there's a lot of information coming out, but independent journalists, foreign journalists are not being given access. The Pakistanis have said, to me, you're free to come to the sites that have been targeted, and we can take you to the line of control as well with the military to show you what's been hit and targeted. And in the same way, the information that we find that we're getting out of, and this image that you've shown was shown at a press conference that the military in Delhi put out as well. But that is part of the problem here as well, isn't it, High Commissioner? I mean, there is an information warfare that's taking place, and independent journalists can't seem to get access to either side.
Well, look, it is a fluid situation out there. I don't know how helpful it would be to have independent journalists or any kind of journalists wandering around in an area where there is active military operations happening. The logical solution would be, as we've said repeatedly, for Pakistan to take the opportunity of an off-ramp, which we have made abundantly clear, including this morning, that if Pakistan stops attacking our military facilities, the matter ends there. But it is for them to decide.
High Commissioner, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I just want to stay with the escalating tensions between India and Pakistan. Delhi says the purpose of its military strikes is to eliminate terror cells operating within Pakistan. So who are those terror cells? Well, the first is Lashkar-e-Taiba, which was founded by Hafiz Saeed, who is pictured here on the screen. It's been designated as a terrorist group by the United Nations. Another group Jaish-e-Mohammed was founded by and led by Masood Azhar. It's also listed as a terrorist organization by the UN and several other countries. Lashkar-e-Taiba was accused of killing 166 people during this 4-day attack on Mumbai in 2008. A group called the Kashmir Resistance, also known as the Resistance Front, claimed responsibility for the 22nd of April attack in Indian-administered Kashmir, where 26 people were killed. India says the group is linked to Lashkar-e-Taiba. In the last 24 hours, the leader of Jaish-e-Mohammed claimed 10 of his relatives had been killed in military strikes launched by India. It's a claim I put to Pakistan's former Chief of General Staff earlier today, as well as his country's past links to terrorism. Have a listen.
In such situations where a country blames that we have traced back the origin of this attack to so-and-so place, what is the kind of evidence they shared internationally? There is always some voice cuts.
Can I share?
There is always electronic footprint. There are always calls made here and there. There is a money trail which is traced out. So what is that kind of evidence which you have? On which basis you are saying that it has been already traced back to Pakistan?
Can I just share with you the residential Islamic
Please go ahead.
The residential Islamic seminary that was hit outside of Bahawalpur in central Pakistan, believed to be the area that was attacked. It is understood, according to what the Pakistani military has said and reported by the Reuters news agency, the seminary was emptied out by students just days before the attack because Pakistan had intelligence that this particular seminary was going to be hit, and that the family of Masood Azhar, founder of Jaish-e-Mohammed, an Islamist militant group, was still there. 10 family members of Masood Azhar were killed. So when you talk about, these non-state actors, this particular non-state actor, a terrorist group believed to be hiding in this or within this area, founder of Jaish-e-Mohammed and his family were believed to be there. I just want to get your response to that.
Okay. Now, will you allow me to give my viewpoint?
Of course.
I have listened to you. Please listen to me. Please listen to me. I believe Sky News is not short on resources. So I would request you, although I have retired now, your correspondent here can contact me tomorrow, and we can take your correspondent to all those 9 places which have been hit. And they can see for themselves what sort of training camps are there.
I'm just asking about the strike that took out the family members of a known Islamist militant, the founder of Jaish-e-Mohammed, his family, because he was believed to be there.
I respect you and your institution, and I believe that your intent of this hectic work for last few days is nothing but peace. I believe that. Now you tell me, what is the data available with you on basis of which you are saying that they were family members of Masood Azhar?
Sir, just as you've asked me as a journalist to send our reporter to you, Reuters has sent a reporter and they have covered this story where the Pakistani military has said that Masood Azhar's family members were killed. It is now something that is being documented right across the board. I understand that you don't necessarily want to acknowledge this situation, but I guess if we want to talk about militancy...
No, let's get back to it. I would like to discuss it with you. Now, you say that Pakistan military has said that they were...
Pakistani military, correct.
Please quote me. Quote me, there has been a briefing after every 4 hours, formal institutional briefing by ISPR. Please quote me, where did they say it? And forget about the ISPR briefing. You tell me, I raise a question to you, that we have Kulbhushan Yadav here with us, an Indian naval officer who was involved in supporting BLA. And this is one event in Pahalgam. In last 2 months, we've had over 100 events, terrorist events in Balochistan, which were staged by BLA. So he was backing up BLA completely, and we caught him in Balochistan. Does any international law, any civility, anywhere, allow us to target his family? We can trace it out.
Are you worried that this whole situation could escalate?
Let me say it very, very clearly. It is not Pakistan and India and people on both sides who should be worried alone. People in the region should be worried. People internationally should be worried. There have been smaller conflicts in last 3-4 years in around the world. I won't name them, you know them better than me. Which was that smallest possible conflict for which there were no consequences for the international community, each nation state. At times economic consequences, at times political consequences, at times diplomatic consequences. So if India and Pakistan go to war, full-scale war, why would there not be consequences? So everybody got to be worried and everyone should take the situation very seriously.
You can watch that full interview. We'll put it up on our YouTube channel. Now, it's the moment Britain and the United States have built towards 4 years. The declaration of a trade deal between two nations that have often talked up their so-called special relationship. And as the Prime Minister and the US President publicly announced the deal, there was no shortage of hyperbole. A fantastic moment and a historic agreement was just a flavour of the language. But as ever with such major deals, the devil is, of course, in the detail. Well, here's what we know. US tariffs on British cars will be cut from 27.5% to 10%, but only for up to 100,000 cars every year. Tariffs will be scrapped altogether on steel, aluminium and ethanol, which is crucial to producing beer. Tariffs have also been slashed to zero on beef. And if the US ever imposes tariffs on pharmaceuticals, British companies will get preferential treatment. But, and it's a big but, 10% tariffs announced by President Trump will remain in place for all other products. Here's our political editor, Beth Rigby.
It never quite got there.
Yeah.
It did with this Prime Minister. So I want to just congratulate you.
Well, with this President, this Prime Minister, we've managed to achieve what many people have tried to achieve for many years.
This a special relationship, and these leaders claiming it as a win-win. Keir Starmer beamed into the Oval Office from a car plant in the West Midlands to sign off a US-UK trade deal.
This is now turning out, I think, really to be a great deal for both countries.
This the beginning of the backtrack from President Trump, whose announcement of sweeping global tariffs last month crashed the confidence of markets and voters in him.
It opens up a tremendous market for us, and it works out very well, very well. Until I looked at the numbers, I didn't realize this is a very conclusive deal, but we think we can grow it even from that. But this is a maxed out deal.
The president in need of an off-ramp and a prime minister happy to supply it, signing the first of what the US hopes will be a series of bilateral trade deals with countries around the world. For Jaguar Land Rover in the West Midlands, tariffs on cars cut from 27.5% to 10%. This production line has been paused, so this deal a lifeline. Elsewhere, tariffs slashed to zero on aluminium and steel, and a deal to sell more beef both sides of the Atlantic. This then a pretty narrow deal designed to limit the damage from Trump tariffs.
This is just the start. With the deal we've done today, we can say jobs saved, jobs won, not job done, because we're more ambitious for what the UK and the US can do together. So we're hammering out further details.
Back in February, when you did a press conference with Donald Trump in the White House, he said, we could end up with a real trade deal where tariffs wouldn't be necessary. We'll see. Those were Donald Trump's words. And you've come out, and yes, you have a concession on cars. You have a flat tariff still of 10%. Are you disappointed with that? Is this just the start?
We would like to go further in relation to tariffs, but I think it's really important that we've been able to get this deal over the line now, because in that way we've been able to protect and save and enhance jobs right here, right now.
The PM wanted to come here to Jaguar Land Rover to tell shop workers on the floor that he'd done a better deal for them when it comes to car exports. But this isn't a comprehensive free trade deal. Things are still worse than they were before Donald Trump was elected to the White House. But it is some progress. And this was a Prime Minister who clearly felt his approach paid off. As one of his allies said to me, the cool heads deal behind closed doors, that approach has been vindicated today. So the PM will chalk this up as a win. But the real challenge for him is how he translates successes with, say, Donald Trump into votes and support on the doorstep.
It's a very special place and he's a special man.
The work Keir Starmer put into this first Oval Office meeting back in February now paying off. The Prime Minister the first in line when it comes to a Trump trade deal, however thin. Managing to roll back some tariffs today, but so many unknowns as to where Trump might go next and how that could hit Starmer back home. Beth Rigby, Sky News, Solihull.
Our US correspondent James Matthews was in the Oval Office as President Trump was on the phone to the Prime Minister. Afterwards, he put this question to the President. Have a listen.
Why Britain and why now? And you've described this deal as a full and comprehensive deal, and yet we've just heard from Mr. Mandelson it's the end of the beginning. Clearly, there's much more work still to do. With respect, are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal? Because you're a president who needs a result at a difficult time.
I think that it's a great deal for both parties. It's for us. We're opened up. I didn't know how closed it was. Quite closed, the market, as you know, the UK. And it opens up a tremendous market for us. And it works out very well. I actually, until I looked at the numbers, I didn't realize this is a very conclusive deal. But we think we can grow it even from that. But this is a maxed out deal, not like you said it. You said it really incorrectly. This is a maxed out deal that we're going to make bigger.
Donald Trump speaking to our US correspondent James Matthews there. And that's it for the programme this week. Goodbye for now.